Hey, people. Here are your notes on Chapter 10, American Political Culture. After this PowerPoint, and I am going to move pretty quickly, you will use the reading guide that I gave you and the textbook that you can find on CTLS in Learning Resources to answer the questions on Chapter 11, which I believe is public opinion. So let's go ahead and dive right into the definition of American political culture. When I'm talking about American political culture, I am talking about the dominant set of beliefs, customs, traditions, and values that define the relationship between the citizen and the government. So again, press pause to get all of that, okay? So it's true, this is not every single American, but if we look at Americans, as a society, and we attempt to do some stereotyping, that's what political culture is. It's that dominant stuff. So just think about it. The dominant set of beliefs, most Americans do tend to be religious. Dominant set of customs and traditions. Think about what most Americans do on July the 4th. And values, most Americans value free enterprise or capitalism. And these beliefs, customs, traditions, values, they work together to kind of define that relationship we have with our government. So let's go back and look at what these facets of the culture are. They include individualism, equality of opportunity, free enterprise, rule of law, and limited government. These are the 5 contributing factors to American political culture. Most Americans can agree on the importance of these things. The difference comes into play when you look at how to interpret these things. What is limited government, or what should it be? What is equality of opportunity, and what should the government do to ensure that it is possible? Okay, so let's get into number 1. So number 1 on your note-taking guide, where it says they are, number 1, individualism. Individualism is the belief that individuals should be responsible for themselves and for the decisions they make. So responsible for their actions and the decisions that they make. So if you decide to invest all of your money in a small business and that small business fails, c'est la vie, it is what it is. That's individualism. If you decide that you want to work hard, get good grades, get into college, try to make something of yourself, that's the individual spirit. And this is pretty interesting because our government is made up of individuals. And this figure right here is showing you social trust by age group. So how certain ages of people feel about trusting others. That certainly plays a role in individualism. And I'm going to pause here, let you take a moment to look at this graph. And hopefully you can see that as of 2012, millennials, they feel not as confident that people can be as trusted the same way that Gen Xers do, boomers do, and the silent generation does. So obviously this is 9 years old. So just add roughly 10 years to see where these groups' ages fit today. And I'm sorry to my folks, your generation is not represented. You matter. Here's some other core values of Americans. 1, equality of opportunity, or I'm sorry, 2, equality of opportunity. This idea that everyone should have the chance to succeed based on how much effort they put out there, based on their own effort, okay? This is not the same as equality of result. So in our country, there is a belief that by attending public school, everybody will have the same opportunity to get educated and make something of themselves. What happens following that education? Results are mixed. Not everybody graduates high school, right? So equality of result is going to be different. If you guys remember, only about 1/3 of Americans have a 4-year to college degree. So again, not the same equality of result, right? Then we have number 3, free enterprise, or the laissez-faire system. This is an economic system where the government intrudes as little as possible in the economic transaction among the citizen and the business. So our government, and again, pause me to write this all down, does not set wages. Our government does not set prices. Our government does not set production. That's going to be more characteristic of a command and control economy. All righty. We have more of a mixed economy where economic questions are left to individuals and businesses. You know, Americans don't really like communism. They don't really like socialism, in large part because we equate that with times of the Cold War and nations that we were fighting against, spreading what we consider to be their evil ideologies and governing systems. People your age are a little bit more open to some of these ideas, but you know, people your age are not in positions in the government. Heck, people my age are not in positions in the government as much. So that is another reason why, aside from tradition, we continue to operate economically this way. Okay. Where we have a lot of conflict is with equality and freedom. So think of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, where the government initially said everybody has to get at least this healthcare. Everyone in the United States of America has to have healthcare. And if you can't afford the, crazy, ridiculous, expensive healthcare, feel free to talk to the adults you live with about how much they pay. It's horrifying. Then you can get this government provided healthcare. But not a lot of people felt as though that was constitutional. If people choose to roll the dice and not have health insurance, isn't that their choice? And if the government is providing this option for people, that's going to affect others financially, taking a hit to the wallet. So is that, something that is constitutional? So we see a lot of butting heads over the government trying to provide equality, everybody having access to healthcare, but also freedom and individualism. And if you don't have the money, then perhaps the government should not provide it for you, those sorts of things. I know some of you are cringing out there, both, for and against, sorry. So again, just talking about different economic and governing systems we fought back in the day. Pause it to look at this map if you would like to see the welfare benefits in high income countries. This shows the United States compared to other countries and where our poverty threshold is and what is, how many welfare benefits are provided by the government. All right, number 4 is rule of law, the principle that no one, including public officials, is above the law. No one. This is evidenced in Federalist 78, where it talked about the role of the judicial branch in ensuring that even, other branches couldn't get too big for their britches and break the law, which is one reason why the judiciary is independent and doesn't feel political pressures. They're insulated from that to where they can ensure that even if it's the president themselves, they are held to the same standards as the rest of us. So this produces fair trials, impartial juries, decisions that are based on precedent, and of course, transparency of governmental operations, the government being honest with what they're doing. Hang on one second, guys. Willow, do you have sneakers on? Put sneakers on, please. Okay, sorry about that. Number 5 is limited government. This idea that as human beings, we have inherent rights, natural rights of man, that the government cannot take away. And these are protected through checks and balances. We have a written constitution. We have the concept of federalism, states having power, the federal government having power. And of course, we have the civil liberties that are provided to us in the Bill of Rights, protections from the federal government. So again, that's individualism, equality of opportunity, free enterprise, rule of law, limited government that help make up American political culture. Pause this presentation and see if you can say those 5 things from memory. For letter F, where we really disagree is on interpretation. How do we balance this? One clear example is by looking at needs-based assistance programs. So I'm talking about welfare, guys. That's funded through the federal and or state tax revenue. So individuals or families qualify for this based on their income. And I've got several examples here. The AFDC, which is aid to families with dependent children. Again, pause me if I'm going too fast. The potential issue here is that these organizations have been accused of cultivating dependency among recipients. And this is not my view, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and creating a generation that receives benefits rather than working. So becoming dependent on the government and not relying on that core value of individualism. Another example is the PRWORA, which is Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Acts. This is interesting because this is an example of devolution, if you want to write that down. That's where the federal government tries to turn back some control of things to state governments. And that's exactly what this did. This gave states more authority over administration of social welfare programs. And there's, many more. TANF, temporary assistance for needy families. There's, SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, but now it's SNAP, supplemental nutrition assistance programs. There's WIC, women, infant, children. You can qualify for that if your child is no more than 5, but at nutritional risk based on poverty or other circumstances. So when you look at these things, you're always going to be pointed to contradictions of core political values. And I, mentioned this earlier, individualism, and you could say equality of opportunity, or you could say free enterprise, allowing, the economy to work the way it should, and you don't involve the government in economic transactions, in social welfare programs, right? So here's a question. How do the Constitution and Bill of Rights reflect American core values? Well, stop and think about it for a second. I'm going to pretend you did. You've got checks and balances, limited government, right? Government can't do whatever it wants to do. The other branches can check each other. You've got division of power, so not separation of the branches, but division of power. The federal government has power, state governments have power. Again, limited government. Both of them cannot do whatever the heck they want. Maryland cannot tax an entity of the federal government through the National Bank, and Congress cannot use the Commerce Clause however the heck they want to, US versus Lopez. Also, we've got civil liberties protected through our Bill of Rights from interference by the federal government and the state governments through implementation of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, which again keeps the government limited in their scope. And then you've got the rights of the accused, amendments 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which really reinforces rule of law. That's where I have to stop for today.